the digital connection of the technology, the care delivery technology has been very transformative. So just the idea of like a Trio scanner doing the imaging and being able to monitor patients over time is phenomenal technology. And the digital workflow, the ability to do a scan, translate that into an impression, be able to develop the implant care plan and the restorative as seamlessly as you can is just unbelievable breakthrough when you think about the advancement. But what hasn't changed is we still send paper to insurers to file claims. And I'm like, wait, really? But I came back, a couple years ago, and I'm like, we really still do that?
Mike Friguletto, it's good to have you on the Zero Balance podcast.
Well, thanks. I'm doing great.
Awesome. You are a trooper. I think you landed here just not too long ago, and you were on some phone calls, and now you're taking some time with us. So.
Yes, absolutely. Just all in a day's work.
I really appreciate it. So I'd love to have you share. I know it's a long story, but maybe just kind of a little, 30,000 foot view of what you've done in dentistry, and then love to kind of talk a little bit about Beacon, and then even, some of the things that the DCS team is doing, and get your thoughts on it. So.
All right. What have I done in dentistry? Well, I started out, my first experience in dentistry is actually through Care Credit. And to go back and tell that story, I got to go back to my time at GE. So I was working for GE Capital. This is back in 2002, 2003. And the GE Capital portfolio was an investor in Care Credit. So Care Credit had two financing companies, Citibank and GE Capital. And the founder of Care Credit wanted to sell that business. And so we were an ultimate winner in a process. And I came in to help facilitate the deal, but then to be on the business development team to help grow Care Credit as part of the GE Capital portfolio. Mm-hmm. And my boss actually told me, he said, this business is so cool. Let's not screw this up. Don't let GE screw this up. So I had a very specific mission, move into California and be a part of something that was a completely different culture. Mm-hmm. Because here you are trying to lend in a healthcare environment, whereas most of the retail lending is like selling couches and automobiles and that kind of thing. Right. So a very different model. But that was my first exposure into dentistry. And of course, Care Credit's founding was tied to implants because the founder actually was also owner of an implant manufacturer, and he was trying to figure out how to sell more implants, discovered financing, and then was like, well, this is the business that I'm going to be in. And now Care Credit's, everywhere as one of the major, but not the only financing company that you see in all the dental practices and healthcare around the U.S.
Yeah, it's interesting. I spent some time at a DSO, Mortenson Dental Partners, 2012, 2013, and I had the opportunity to work with some of the Care Credit reps from that area. And as someone that was working with dental practice, who's, as you know, Mike, one of their struggles is helping patients get the care done that they need. It was always great to watch that option being presented. Yeah. And those patients, like you mentioned, who were maybe kind of used to what was going on in the retail space, where there was options to finance what they needed to purchase. Like you mentioned, it was really cool to see in the dental practice, patients being able to take advantage of that. And actually, one scenario I had where my sister was I think it was more like in the vet industry, but same thing. Had a dog that she had to get some medical work done. It was unexpected, and just knowing that was available, like I kind of watched her. It kind of changed their whole approach of kind of getting it done, which I thought was really cool.
Well, it's been 20 years, but 20 years ago was a much different hill to climb in terms of social presentations. Certainly, dentists, doctors were very uncomfortable with how to present financing, and we had a very significant team that was just focused on how to train the practice to present it. And even today, now 2025, that's still the challenge, right? It's how do you present financing in the total context of the care, what the care plan is, because you don't want to be overwhelming and oversell it, because it's not you're not buying a couch. Right. But it is important when you're in pain or you're thinking about something aesthetically that, when presented the right way, can be a decision point. And of course, financing has now gotten to the point, it's so ubiquitous, and even Care Credit's so ubiquitous that they're walking in with their card, and they're almost accustomed to asking for it. Like, I have my Care Credit card, can I pay for it on that? Mm-hmm. So the whole tide has shifted in 25 years, but that's just, it's an important part of the healthcare delivery system.
So that was your entry into dentistry. Are you still hanging out in dentistry, or are you still doing a lot of stuff in dentistry?
Well, now, of course, yes,
You're
obviously, I'm back.
Like most of us,
I'm
right?
back.
Yeah.
I left Care Credit, and I worked for GE for a long time. And in my GE healthcare career, most of it was in ambulatory healthcare. So spent a lot of time with different specialties. When I left in 2013 to work in private equity backed, I stayed in healthcare, but I went into some other medical specialties first. But it was cool to be the opportunity to help start up and build Beacon because I thought I had something to offer because I had some knowledge of the space. And I understand, or I feel like I understand the ambulatory healthcare market and how to win in an office-based environment where you're trying to build a practice up and help to grow a practice in an appropriate manner, right? Because it's all about doing it the right way because you are in healthcare. You're treating patients. So you don't want to be overly commercial, but there are ways to be more efficient, the ways to run your practice better that allow you to do well financially and still deliver great care and be a pillar in your community.
So talk a little bit about Beacon, what it is, and for those who do not know, specialty group, yes?
Yeah, so we're single specialty, only oral and maxillofacial surgeons. Yeah. It started up in 2020, actually during COVID. Blue Sea Capital is a mid-market private equity fund. They were excited about investing in the space and did a lot of research and ultimately made a first investment in a group in California called Bay Area. And then when they did a second transaction and brought in the Atlanta practice, which was at the time and probably still is the largest single practice group in the country, that merger was what created Beacon. And I joined just a few months after. I was courted during the process, and when they came together, then I joined, but I had to finish up my tenure in my prior company. And so that's when we started up Beacon, and we've been doing this for 4 years. And like our peers, we're trying to develop a model for bringing together like-minded practices. So you want partners and surgeons that really want to deliver care in a similar way, and they want to have a similar approach because they ultimately learn from one another. And then the business has really taken off because we've been able to use our knowledge of oral surgery and several practices like Atlanta who have learned to really deliver efficient, high-quality care to teach and translate that into all the other practices. And so it's very data-centric. We're very transfer of best practices. We use, and our surgeons really play a key role in that. So it's the management team or facilitators. It's the surgeons are the ones that really are the teachers. They're the ones that help to bring everybody together and share how best to run their practices in their communities.
How have you balanced out, like you mentioned, that focus towards great patient care, the business aspect of it? As you know so well, it's a universal theme in dentistry, right? All clinicians go to school to be able to clinically learn how to take care of patients and things like that. However, so many of them wake up and they're running a business, and so they have to know and understand all of that. Like, how have you been able to, with Beacon, to find that delicate balance to ensure that both of those things stay top of mind?
So the surgeons are always the alphas and they're the leaders of their practices. Yeah. And so a lot of what we do is trying to empower them to still be the leader in their practice 100%. Right? They decide every day who they're treating, how they want to run their schedules. And we want to give them as much of the ability to make those decisions as they would if they didn't have a partner like us. What we try to do is bring the tools and technologies that help to make things as efficient, to take away the things that are the monotony of their lives, but also to expose them. And when they see I can do this in my practice and it works, and those two surgeons collaborate, they come back and they're like, hey, Mike, how can we do this tomorrow? And then it's our ability to support them to get that change in place. And that can be anything from how we do continuing education and marketing to patients to the actual patient workflow. And we've done some bigger events that help to open up everyone's minds. We spend a lot of time around customer service. And we have a partnership with a very well-known brand of in the hospitality industry who come in and teach our surgeons how to do 5-star service. Because you want your patients to feel like they're not in a spa, but they're in a high quality organization. Right. Because that's the first step when you have a lot of anxiety, to getting through the surgical procedure, you and your family both. So you want that experience to be right. And that's something that we can do as an enterprise. We can bring on those experts, teach the surgeons, and then they implement that in their practice. And they, in their daily huddles and in their reviews with their staff, will be like, this is the culture I want. I can give you examples now. And it's easier for them to translate that experience back into their teams. So I think that's how we do it. And it's just bringing them back over and over again, and doing it in the right size of environment where it's not a classroom with 100 people and you're kind of wandering in and out. It's in small groups where they're accountable to one another. And so you learn how to be better at your job because you're in a peer group of 10 or 12 and you're almost you can't hide, you know what I mean? So it's not, because you're all partners, right? And you're all a part of a bigger organization, so you all almost feel like I have to do better because I don't want to let my peers down.
Yeah,
so
completely. So I know recently you were just in San Diego, ADSO.
Yeah.
What particular were you speaking about? Like what topic were you out there?
Oh, they asked me to be on this panel around specialty dentistry and trends in the private equity space. And of course, private equity's been around for a long time, but it hasn't been as substantially invested when you think about dentistry in the specialty markets. And it's in part because there's not a lot of aggregation. So if you think about private equity as an investor, they like scale, and but oral surgeons are probably the lone wolves of any medical specialty. It may be in small groups of 2 or 3. Certainly not. Atlanta is such an anomaly that they had 25. You just don't get the scale that way. And so whether it's us or some of the other specialties now, private equity is relatively new, and so just understanding the dynamics of what's happening was what we talked about, and there's only so many specialists, and so you got to deal with things like generational transitions, and then how do you grow, and how do you maintain scale in certain markets, and just thinking about how the business model is evolving for people are very interested, and it's interesting because in our space, even though oral surgeons are specialists, dentistry is kind of encroaching on one angle, and then consumer demand is encroaching on another angle. And so, we're not giving away the trade secrets, but there's a lot of competition going on in the sense of everyone's trying to figure out how to win, and usually winning is like, well, how do I get my share of what they're doing over there, right? There's not a lot of new invention in dentistry right now. So what we do is pretty routine. Take teeth out, put new ones in. So
and do it well.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about DCS? I know you're here. They're having a meeting here, but just anything in particular of like what the experience has been like, and I think more importantly the value of what they provide the practices. From a billing perspective, in the whole theme of like you talked about of like really finding a way to be able to be efficient and run those practices to be profitable and to be able to grow and scale.
Look, we've only started working with DCS for I would say 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
So we're new in our relationship. Yeah. The important part of that partnership has been that there's been a desire to understand the problem we're trying to solve, and to unpack the problem in a way so that your team, the DCS team, is adapting to us to say, okay, we understand your workflow. How do we fit into that and then add value? A lot of partners, in our experience, or maybe they're not partners or vendors, and that's the distinction. Vendors come in and they have a solution. Partners come in and say, well, I have a way to solve your problem, and now let me figure out how to adapt to you. And so far, our experience has been, hey, day one, we all thought it was going to be great. And like any change management curve, you go through the storming, norming, performing phases. I don't think I quoted them quite right. But you have those moments where you're still trying to figure things out and it's not quite getting the results. But when you power through that as partners, you come out the other side and suddenly you see the results. And that's, right now we're seeing good results in the project we've got running. And I think we look and say, what else can we do together? Because you're helping with this problem. As a CEO, I've got lots of problems, right? And some are going to be well suited for the DCS team, and some are not. But there are things that we can do, and we'll explore what those opportunities are when I'm here and in the future. So.
It's a great insight because I think about just the industry as a whole, that distinction between vendors and partners, and a lot of companies out there that are serving, whether it be Beacon or individual practices, and them finding a way to be able to solve your problems, but do it in a different way, or more in an innovative way, so that they're in it, they're, I guess, almost invested as you are. To the time that they spend, and more importantly, the time and investment that you spend in them.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the keys, and I give you guys credit for this, is that the transparency of performance is measured in our terms, not in your terms.
Yeah.
And I think that getting that scorecard right is really important. And so, because the result is only if it helps my business be successful, not your business be successful. And sometimes people come in and they show me these numbers, and then I have to spend hours to try to reconcile the vendor's numbers with my numbers because they don't tie. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and at the end of the day, I'm the customer. It's about my metrics that really should count, right? So I think that we figured that out in our relationship with DCS. And it took some time because there is translation that has to happen. Even though we're all revenue cycle, have high domain, we all understand dentistry. Even with all that common knowledge, you still have the very easily ability to miscommunicate, and just taking the time to figure that out.
So last thing I wanted to ask you is maybe some things that you've seen since you started at Care Credit and the journey on to Beacon, maybe some things in dentistry that kind of remain the same, just some fundamentals that remain the same, but some things that have definitely changed in the industry when you look at kind of where it is.
Yeah, so, the change is the digital connection of the technology, the care delivery technology has been very transformative. So just the idea of like a Trio scanner doing the imaging and being able to monitor patients over time is phenomenal technology. And the digital workflow, the ability to do a scan, translate that into an impression, be able to develop the implant care plan and the restorative as seamlessly as you can, is just unbelievable breakthrough when you think about the advancement. But what hasn't changed is we still send paper to insurers to file claims. And I'm like, wait, really? And I came back, a couple years ago, and I'm like, we really still do that? And when we had the incident with Change Health that unfortunately happened last year, and we had to go to paper to submit claims, and you're like, wow. Yeah. And now at some level, you're like, thank God that you can still deliver care, right? And so I remember I just talked about this at the ADSO conference, that I do. One thing that keeps me up at night, of course, is the risk, cyber risk. The safeguard in our industry is that, you can't really take us out because we can still operate on paper, right? So I got that as my fallback option, and hopefully I don't have to do that, but we did in that instance, and I guess that's probably what hasn't changed after all these years. So
I don't know if it's something else that keeps you up at night, but when you think about the entree of AI into dentistry, is there anything in particular that you look at with AI, at least in the sense of Beacon, that you're excited about, or or are you still kind of feeling it out of really trying to understand? I mean, there's obviously going to be application for it, but anything in particular that...
So I love the clinical application in the dental space, but unfortunately it's less relevant in oral surgery. Sure. When we get the patients, we already know they're in trouble, and so it's basically we got to treat them. Where it is helpful is there are, as we all know, the carriers are always finding ways to not pay you, and sometimes it's hard to see the patterns. You have to kind of ask yourself. You do a lot of guesswork to figure out what's happening. When you're at scale like we are, I think you can use AI to kind of, you have a large data stream, you can see changes in patterns, and they either identify that the compares are doing something or we're doing something differently. And of course, we have staff turnover, and there's a lot of monitoring to say, hey, look, maybe that person's not doing things the right way, so being able to detect that faster. AI is perfectly suited for those kinds of real-time, I see changes in the pattern, what's happening and what do I need to do about it. And I'll take you back to Care Credit. So a great Care Credit story. They're going to love all the free credit I'm giving them today. But years and years ago when we were tracking patient financing, we'd see the application volumes by offices. And when we saw dips, we would call those practices, because almost every time when we saw a dip, because their office manager or their front staff changed over. So we had to retrain them, right? And so you use the data and you'd be like, oh, I see a signal. Let me follow up with them and communicate with them. And we constantly sent them stuff in the mail to all our practices, including little postcards. So when a new staff member got the postcard, they'd be like, if you're new to Care Credit and don't know how to use it, just here's the number, just call us and we'll take care of you, right? So we hit them with low-cost mailers that just kept us top of mind, so that we kind of picked up on all those changes, because these practices turn over staff, at high rates. So perfect solution for AI, right? We did AI 25 years ago. It was humans tracking the numbers and sending out the cards. All of that stuff could be automated, but it's the name of the game, right? You're always looking for the change in the pattern. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Mike, thanks for your time.
Yeah,
really
of course.
Appreciate it. I know the DCS team is excited to have you here, and we'll continue to follow all the great stuff that you're doing at Beacon.
Thanks.
And good luck with all of that, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Thanks,
Appreciate
you got
it. Yep. See ya.
Absolutely. That's a wrap.